We'll start the construction with the keyboard. Here, 7 pieces of basswood are glued together to make up the keyboard blank. The keyboard plan is carefully drawn by hand onto the key blank. The arcades are cut into a strip of maple. This strip will be glued onto the front edge of the keyboard before the individual keys are cut apart. The keys will pivot on a key frame that is made from maple, poplar, and red oak. The keys are guided by pins inserted into the balance rail and back rail of the key frame. The keyboard is temporarily attached to its key frame, and 116 holes are drilled through both assemblies simultaneously to ensure that their positions line up. The keyboard is removed from the key frame and taken to the bandsaw, where it is cut apart into groups of 3 and 4 natural keys. From these groups, the 58 individual keys are cut out. The balance rail and back rail pins are installed into the previously drilled holes in the key frame. Felt punchings are added to the balance rail, and thick cloth is installed onto the back rail where the rear of the keys will come to rest. The balance rail hole on each key is mortised and reamed to fit its balance rail pin. Slots are cut into the rear of each key to accept the back rail pins. 2 layers of felt are installed onto the rear of each key where the bottoms of the jacks will rest. The 24 sharps are made from the solid block of sapele shown in the background. The sapele sharps will be capped with micarta. 24 caps are made, each one exactly 0.335 inches wide, which is the width of the top surface of the sharps. The caps are glued onto the sharps, and the sharps are glued onto their key sticks. The natural keys are covered with gaboon ebony. The heads and tails are cut to fit their keys from a 1/8 inch thick sheet of this wood. Using a shop-made jig, 2 scored lines are cut into the heads before they are glued onto their key sticks. The ebony heads are glued on first, aligning their rear edges to a straight edge. The ebony tails are glued on directly behind the heads. The joint between the head and the tail forms another scored line to join the 2 previously cut into the head. These 3 scored lines will become part of the head's decoration. The ebony heads are hand carved and rounded up to the 3rd scored line. Each key is individually balanced by the addition of lead weights to make the key very slightly back heavy and assure its return to its rest position. The keyboard is leveled by the addition of paper punchings on the balance rail pins. The natural keys are given a protective finish, and the keyboard is complete. We'll start the case by laminating the bent side. Glue is applied to the mating surfaces of 4 pieces of 1/8 inch thick poplar. The 4 plies are clamped onto the bent side jig, whose curve matches the curve of the instrument's bent side. When the glue is set, the bent side is removed from the jig and maintains its curve. To help control the expansion and contraction of the wood, the bottom is made in 2 sections. The front section has its grain running from left to right, while the rear section's grain runs from front to back. The 2 sections are glued together with a butt joint that will be reinforced by the lower belly rail in a future step. The spine, tail, cheek, and bent side are cut to their final height of 9 7/16 inches and are placed on the bottom and cut to their proper lengths. The curve of the bent side is traced onto the bottom, which is then rough cut to be slightly wider than its final shape. After the four sides are permanently glued to the bottom, a router will be used to trim the bottom to fit the sides perfectly. Mortises are cut into the spine and cheek to accept the pin block, lower belly rail, and name board. The pin block and lower belly rail are glued into the spine and cheek, which locks the width of the case and assures its squareness. The bent side and tail are glued to the bottom and to the adjacent sides. The case is flipped upside down, and a flush trim router bit is used to make the bottom flush with the case sides. The name board is installed into its dados directly in front of the pin block. 3 rectangular slots have been cut into it to allow the hand stop levers to go through. The decorative front rail moldings are installed onto the front edge of the instrument's bottom. Next, the upper belly rail is installed onto the rear of the pin block support brackets. This creates a 1.5-inch gap between it and the pin block, through which the jacks will rise to pluck their strings. Lower braces are installed to further strengthen the case. The upper braces are installed to further strengthen the case and allow it to resist the string tension. In this photo, the curved section of the soundboard liner is being glued to the bent side. You can never have too many clamps. The remainder of the soundboard liners are installed. Small wedges are installed on each upper brace that bear against the soundboard liners and help them resist the tension of the strings. The case structure is now complete. Here's a front view of the case with the keyboard placed in position in the keywell. The jacks are guided in their up and down movement by the upper and lower registers. The rectangular slots must fit their jacks with only 1 or 2 thousandths of an inch of play to allow the jacks to freely rise and fall with no sideways movement. The slots in the lower registers, which can't be seen in this photo, align perfectly with the upper register slots and guide the jacks to their resting place in the center of their respective key sticks. The soundboard is made from 7 pieces of 1/8 inch thick Sitka spruce, which are edge glued together to form the soundboard blank. After sanding the soundboard blank, it is clamped roughly in position on top of the case, and the outline of the case is traced onto the underside of the blank. After several hours of sanding and filing, the soundboard fits into the case and rests on the soundboard liners and the upper belly rail. After the bridges and nuts are fabricated, the bridges are soaked in water overnight to prepare them for bending. The blueprint is taped onto the pin block, and the nuts are temporarily attached with a few nails. These nail holes will be used to locate the nuts on the pin block when they are permanently installed. An awl is used to make a dimple in the pin block at the location of each tuning pin. The blueprint is removed and the holes for the tuning pins are drilled into the pin block with the help of a little block of wood that has a hole drilled into it at 5 degrees. This ensures that each tuning pin will lean backwards towards the player, which helps the pin withstand the pull of the strings. After an overnight soaking, the 2 bridges are placed into a steam box for about 40 minutes. The steamed bridges are then clamped to a jig which outlines the curve the bridges must take. The bridges are allowed to dry for several days while clamped to this jig. Then the blueprint is placed in position on the soundboard, and the bridges are located with nails as was done on the nuts. The position of each 8-foot string as it crosses the 8-foot bridge is marked on top of the bridge with an awl. The bridge pins will be inserted into holes drilled into the bridge at these locations. The 4-foot bridge is not marked at this time. The 2 bridges are glued in their proper positions on the soundboard. A hole is cut into the board for the rows, which will be installed in a later step. On the underside of the soundboard, the 4-foot hitch pin rail, the cutoff bar, and the ribs are glued into position. After the nuts have been glued onto the pin block, the soundboard is placed in the case but not permanently installed. Sapele moldings are shaped and fit to the top surfaces of the case. In this photo, they have been given their first coat of finish. The jack rail is fabricated and installed into the case directly over the gap. The jack rail stops the upward movement of the jacks and controls the amount of key dip in the keyboard. A small hook will be installed into the recess at the treble end, which will secure the jack rail while still allowing for its removal for servicing the instrument. After the soundboard is permanently installed, moldings are glued around its perimeter. The hitch pins will go through these moldings and bury themselves solidly into the soundboard liners below. The fit between these moldings and the soundboard and case sides must be perfect. In this photo, a section of molding for the curved section of the soundboard is clamped to the soundboard liners. It has been soaked and steamed and will be allowed to dry for several days. The Rose and Rose Tex band are installed into the soundboard, and the soundboard is permanently glued into the harpsichord's case. The soundboard moldings are glued to the soundboard and case sides, which completes work on the instrument's case. The Sapele stand consists of four main parts: the upper platform, the lower platform, the legs, and the feet. The upper platform shown in this photo is sized to exactly match the shape of the harpsichord's case. A decorative restraining molding is applied around the perimeter of the platform except for the spine side. This molding prevents the instrument from moving in any direction except towards the spine, which is how the instrument is removed from the platform for moving. The lower platform shown here provides a resting place for the bottom surface of the legs. During its construction, it's placed on top of the upper platform, and small pilot holes are drilled through both platforms where the leg bolts should be. This ensures that the legs will be perfectly vertical when installed. Starting with 2 3/4 inch square Sapele leg blanks, the legs and feet are turned on the lathe. Here are the 8 legs and feet. Brass inserts are installed into the feet to accept the 3/8 inch threaded rods, which will be epoxied into the tops and bottoms of each leg. Similar inserts are installed into leg blocks found on the underside of the upper platform. To assemble the stand, the top bolt on each leg is screwed into the brass inserts in the upper platform's leg blocks. The bottom bolt on each leg goes through a 3/8 inch hole in the lower platform, and the feet are then screwed onto the ends of these leg bolts. The lid is made in 2 separate sections, the smaller front lid and the longer rear lid. These 2 sections will be hinged together, allowing the front lid to be opened while the rear lid remains closed. In this photo, the 2 lids have been primed and are ready for paint. The top side of both lids are painted black, and the bottom sides are painted Chinese red. The lids are then taken to the studio room, where the chinoiserie scenes are applied. Back at the harpsichord, the area around the rose is decorated to match the chinoiserie decoration that will be applied to the case sides. Each jack is labeled as to its proper position in its register. This is necessary as the jacks are not interchangeable. The instrument is strung and the jacks are installed into their register slots. The 118 strings each get an individual hand-tied loop at their far end. Each of the 118 jacks requires many adjustments in order to function properly. This is one of the more labor-intensive areas of harpsichord construction. The buff pads are prepared and installed onto the buff stop rail that is mounted directly behind the 8-foot nut. When the buff rail is moved into position with the middle hand stop lever, The pads come into contact with the strings and mutes many of their overtones, producing a guitar-like sound. After another session on the lathe, the harpsichord's bench is built and finished. The legs and apron are sapele, which matches the instrument's stand, while the top is finished black to match the case sides. The name board batten with the builder's name is installed above the keyboard after the interior of the case is finished. The finished music desk is installed into brackets on the back side of the name board. The exterior of the case is painted black in anticipation of the chinoiserie that will soon be applied. The case decoration is completed and the instrument is placed on its stand. The lids are hinged to the case, and after 5.5 months of construction, the harpsichord is ready to make music.